Good morning. This is Karma Spence, the Own Your Awesome Mentor. And boy, am I tired. I've been basically awake since 2:30 in the morning because my body decided to wake up at that time. And then as I was trying to get to sleep, my cat decided that it was time to play. So he curls up with me and then starts, play with me. You know, I love him, but 2:30 in the morning is not playtime. Anyway, today I want to talk about using interviews in your books. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I'm working on my new book, Public Speaking Superpowers, which I'm hoping to have out by August. And for that book, I actually interviewed 89 people, although only 87 of those interviews are actually going to be playing because one person requested not to be included, and another person's interview had he didn't answer any of the questions I asked, so I can't use the interview. Anyway, I've noticed that a lot of people seem to be thinking that my forthcoming book is just going to be basically transcripts of these interviews. Now, there are books that are written this way. You interview someone or several someones, and then you use that interview to massage into a chapter. And usually that's because that person has a specific piece of information. They're talking about that specific piece of information, and you're using them as co-authors. But that's not what Public Speaking Superpowers is about. The way I'm using the interviews in my book is more a traditional way of using interviews to write a book, which is where you interview people to gain information, and then you take that information and you write a book from scratch. So here's what I'm doing with my interviews. Now, first of all, I asked all of them the same 4 questions, which should have given people a clue that if I just did transcripts, it would be the world's most boring book. But what that gave me is one of the questions I asked was, do you think public speaking is a learned skill or something you were born being able to do? In other words, an innate talent. So I took the answers of these 87 people, and I've actually shared a chart with the data that says, okay, this is what people think. And then, because right now I'm working on the introduction, which talks about skills versus talents. And I took that data that I learned, and then I've also done a lot of research on the topic. And it's really interesting because it turns out, although talent can exist, we can't prove it exists. Skills we can prove exist. And I'll go into that. I don't need to go into that now. So anyway, what I'm talking about here is using interviews to write a book. There are several ways you can use interviews to write a book. You interview several people, you use the information that they give you to create your book, and you're the author. You could interview someone and transcribe that information and use the transcript almost verbatim as a chapter, thus making that person a co-author. Or you can do something that's in between, where each chapter is kind of a transcript, but not really. Then it's more really a co-author because both you and that person are creating this chapter. And this can make it easier or harder to write your book. Because when you're using interviews and you're transcribing like I did, okay, so you've got the time taken to interview the people. You've got the time and the money that goes into transcribing, which has been my biggest issue. Fortunately, there's a new service out there called Trint.com. You upload your audio file, it transcribes it within minutes, and then gives you a really nice interface for correcting and verifying that transcript. And it's just like, I'm totally sold on this. It used to be in beta, it is now launched official. I highly recommend it. Trint.com, I'll put a link. And then there's the pulling all that raw information into something that's readable. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what you want your book to be, readable. So regardless of how you use interviews in your books, you need to make your book readable. That is a totally different conversation. So today's weekly wisdom is, yes, interviews are a great way to jumpstart your book, but be strategic about how you go about doing it in the first place, because otherwise you may end up with a project that's way bigger than you had initially planned. So interviews are helpful in writing books, but don't let them overwhelm you. That's today's weekday wisdom. It's Friday, so I won't see you till Monday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. And remember, don't box yourself in. Spread your wings and fly. You are capable of more than you know.